Okay, so something pretty surprising just landed. North Korea has, for the very first time, officially confirmed they've got troops fighting with Russia in Ukraine.
Yeah, it's a big development. We've heard whispers, intelligence reports, but this is Pyongyang itself saying it. Definitely something we need to dig into.
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, we're going to unpack this admission, what it means, Russia's reaction, the reported human cost.
And also get into the whole messy business of potential ceasefire talks, especially how Crimea fits into that picture or doesn't.
Exactly. We're drawing heavily on a recent BBC News report from YouTube for this. Let's kick off with that North Korean acknowledgement.
Right. So, as you said, hints were there. Western sources suggested a presence. The BBC report mentioned maybe even 10,000 troops near Kursk.
But now it's official.
Uh-huh.
And their stated reason. They're saying their forces are there to, quote, liberate the Russian region of Kursk.
Liberate Kursk. That phrasing really stands out, doesn't it? Considering, the internationally recognized borders and the whole situation in Ukraine, it paints a very specific picture.
It certainly does. It really flags the tightening relationship between Moscow and Pyongyang, and the language is quite deliberate.
Yeah, Putin himself publicly thanked Kim Jong-un. He acknowledged North Korean involvement, even talked about their, quote, heroism and the losses they've taken.
Which is stark when you put it next to what Western officials are estimating. They're talking closer to maybe 1,000 North Korean soldiers already killed.
1,000. So you've got this official narrative, this liberation force praised by Putin, and then, well, the grim reality of casualties in what most of the world sees as an invasion.
It makes you wonder what North Korea's calculation is here, doesn't it? Is it just political solidarity, or is there something more concrete thereafter? Economic aid, maybe technology.
That's a really good question. It feels like more than just sending bodies. It suggests a deeper strategic alignment is maybe forming or solidifying.
Okay, let's pivot then to the ceasefire discussions. This is where it gets really tangled. President Trump, for instance, recently said he was disappointed by Russia's ongoing attacks.
He did, and he called for a ceasefire, criticizing Putin's actions. But what really caught my ear was his comment about Crimea.
Ah, yes, the Crimea part.
He sort of hinted that maybe, just maybe, Ukraine's leadership might be open to conceding Crimea to achieve peace.
Which is a huge statement, especially given Russia just annexed it, 11 years ago now, an illegal annexation by international standards.
Exactly. And Crimea's strategic value, especially that naval base in Sebastopol giving Russia Black Sea access, well, that's absolutely critical for Moscow.
And the BBC correspondent mentioned something about a supposed American plan, too. One that might involve the U.S. recognizing Russian control over Crimea.
That was mentioned, yes. A potential plan floated to both sides.
Yeah.
But Ukraine's stance on this seems, well, pretty solid.
Very firm. President Zelensky's been absolutely clear. Giving up Crimea is off the table. He's cited the Ukrainian constitution.
Saying it would violate it, might even need a national referendum. Basically, he's signaling he doesn't have the authority to just hand it over.
Right. And it's not just legalities, is it? It's tied so deeply into Ukrainian identity and sovereignty.
Absolutely. So Zelensky's position is complete, unconditional ceasefire first. Only then can any talks about territory even begin.
Though the correspondent did offer a little nuance there, didn't they? Suggesting maybe some Ukrainians could accept temporarily ceding some other territory, pending later talks.
But not Crimea up front. That seems to be the red line. It points to maybe a very narrow path, focusing on stopping the fighting now, but the big territorial questions remain.
The sticking point, it sounds like, is Russia wanting Crimea recognized now as part of any deal, and Ukraine saying absolutely not.
That seems to be the core disagreement, yeah.
So where does that leave actual ceasefire talks? We saw Trump and Zelensky meet, didn't we? At the Pope's funeral.
We did, and the correspondent noted that was seen quite positively, especially in Ukraine. A different kind of signal, perhaps?
A visual, at least. But does it mean anything concrete is happening?
That's the big question. Progress seems uncertain at best. As the report highlighted, Trump's own public statements have been all over the place.
Yeah, praising Putin one minute, then criticizing Russia's attacks the next, sometimes suggesting Zelensky is being difficult. It's confusing.
It makes it incredibly hard to read the tea leaves, doesn't it? To see if there's a consistent strategy or if genuine negotiations are even possible right now.
So, based on those public signals, a deal doesn't exactly feel imminent.
No, not based on what we're hearing publicly. Too many contradictions, too many competing narratives still swirling around.
Okay, so let's try and bring this together. We've got North Korea now confirmed as an active participant, a new element in the war.
Right, with a real human cost already being reported, those casualty estimates for North Korean troops?
And then on the peace front, these huge disagreements, particularly over Crimea, acting as a massive roadblock to any potential ceasefire. Ukraine holding firm on not conceding territory up front.
And it's worth remembering those clashing narratives again. North Korea's liberation story versus the reality of the conflict, and the fundamental differences on how you even start talking about peace, especially territorial integrity.
Which really brings us to the final thought for you, listening. Thinking about all this North Korea's role, the casualties, the deep divisions over Crimea and ceasefire terms, what do you think are the biggest obstacles right now? What's standing in the way of finding some kind of peace?
And maybe even more complex. What could a realistic, lasting resolution possibly look like, given all these intractable issues and deeply held positions?
These are definitely not easy questions.
Yeah,
It's clear the situation is, well, incredibly complex and still unfolding.
absolutely. Something that needs continued watching, continued analysis for sure.